Ladies and gentlemen, we have another handheld console to review, and this one might be my favorite one yet. This is the RG35XX SP, and it's very easy to see. This is supposed to be a modern version of the Gameboy Advance Sp, which is actually my favorite handheld console of all time. So let's check out the quality of the games, and then I'll give you some pros and cons for this console. My favorite home console is the GameCube, and my favorite, I guess at least classic handheld Nintendo console was the Game Boy Advance Sp. I love the Game Boy Advance. The SP just added a backlight. This is supposed to capitalize, I guess, off that nostalgia because there is a bunch of these retro handheld consoles, but this one probably looks the coolest if we're being honest here. So the way I like to review these consoles is just exactly how it is when you get it out of the box. So this console has quite a few consoles on it, but it's all the standard stuff that all of your other retro handheld consoles are going to have. So I'm going to give you my pros and cons after this, but for the time being, let's just test out the actual ROMs. Why don't we actually start with something a little bit more taxing, and that's PlayStation 1. Like, we know this thing is going to play Game Boy and Super Nintendo fine, and probably even Sega Genesis. But PlayStation 1, is there going to be any stuttering there? I have the volume turned down, but you know what? Let's turn it up a little bit. That way you can hear any stuttering in the audio. And yeah, it's actually playing perfectly fine. I'm not really good at Tekken. I like Tekken, but I've never been good at it. So I'm looking at the quality of the image through my phone and then how it looks in real life. And I gotta say it looks very similar, but I'll be honest, the console actually looks better in person than it does on my phone. What's great about this is you can save the game right here, just create a save file, and then the save is there, and then exit the game. And then as soon as you go back into the game, you'll go right back in and load that save file. The last console that I reviewed was the PAL Kitty, and I was having a lot of trouble saving games and then finding the save files. They've made it very, very simple in this. What about Sonic? Sonic is moving very, very fast, and there's a lot of stuff happening on the screen. And yeah. Oh, actually, I have a save file in this game, so I can show you. Load game, and that fast you're into the game. So let's start going fast. Well, I guess that's not that fast, but you guys understand what's going on here. And as you can see, there's nothing wrong. It is perfectly fine. Sonic 2, can we just agree collectively that Sonic 2 is the best Sonic of all time? The most timeless Sonic? I actually enjoy some of the Tony Hawk Game Boy Advance games, like Tony Hawk Underground and maybe Tony Hawk 4 are pretty good. I have never played Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, and I was assuming it was going to be something very similar to the other ones. Look at the graphics. That's your first hint. This is something else entirely. Look at this. It's so funny. It's kind of hard, I think. I don't really understand the controls, but I can do that, and that's kind of cool. So yeah, this is Tony Hawk. I guess you can go both ways. That's cool. But this is what surprised me. There's N64 games on here, and they have Wave Race. If you know anything about the Nintendo 64, Wave Race was one of the best looking Nintendo 64 games, and I would argue it almost looked as good as a GameCube game when it first came out. The water physics looked amazing. So how would that run on this? At first it sounds like it was stuttering a little bit, so I was confused, like, is this gonna work? Is it not gonna work? But then right here, it seems like everything is fine. And for the most part, I guess that was true. Listen to how loud this thing gets at full volume.
Follow that dolphin.
Alright, but turn it down. Alright, so look. Everything looks like it's going fine, right? Let's start riding. We can drive. That's cool. But as you can see, we cannot turn. It's not happening. This is one of the problems where you need to update it. There's buttons up here. They don't turn. None of these buttons turn. We can only drive. Alright, time for some pros and cons. This console is actually very comfortable, and it feels like the quality is there. I don't have a Game Boy Advance Sp, but I do have a Game Boy and a DS, and here is me comparing the size of the three. Even though I don't have an SP, I do remember when I was little, I broke quite a few of them. This one feels very sturdy and a little heavy, but it feels very quality, and I can't remember if the SP was this heavy, but yeah, it's perfect. This is how far the screen goes down. At no point does it feel like it's going to snap off. So this console comes in 4 colors, and the version that I have costs $75 and is 64 gigabytes of storage and comes with 5,000 games. But if you use my referral link down below, and then at checkout put in the code ROBOT, you will save an additional 10% off, which just makes this an amazing deal. I like to review these consoles from the standpoint of somebody buying this online, getting it in the mail, turning it on, and playing it, and it's very user friendly. For the moment you turn it on, you just kind of know what to do. Another thing I like is the size of the screen. I have the Miu Mini Plus right here. When I put them close together, they look like they're the same size screen, and they probably are, but this one just seems bigger. It's probably not, but it seems bigger, and if it looks bigger, then that's a good thing for everybody, right? We'll just say yes. So now some cons. When I was first making this list, I didn't think I was going to have any, but I gave it some time and I found a few. A new version of a retro console is coming out every single week, sometimes multiple times a week. Like if you look up there on top of my bed, I have quite a few products that I've been sent to review, and I'm pretty excited to get into them, but at first you're like, oh my god, they're all so different. But for the past 4 consoles I reviewed, maybe 3, even though they look different, they pretty much all have the same exact games, and the quality is pretty much the same across all of them. So if you already had the Miu Mini Plus, or maybe the Pow Kitty or something else, and you ask me, do you think I should upgrade to this? To be honest, you probably have the same games that are already on this. The only reason I would say yes, upgrade, is if you're a fan of the design, and I gotta say, I'm a big fan of this design. Now, even though this thing is comfortable, don't get me wrong, I am running into this problem right here. Whenever I'm holding it like this, which is how you would hold this console all the time, my fingers are just mashed together in the back. That's probably more of a me problem, because my hands are a little bigger, but I wish this console was wider. Now I know having a wider console, you would have to have a bigger screen, and another big reason they don't want to do that is because they're capitalizing off the nostalgia of this design. But if it was just an inch or two bigger, I would not run into that problem, and this console would be amazing. But then some of the games would kind of be stretched out, so I don't know the inner workings of how that would work. One area where this thing surprised me is it had Nintendo 64 games, and I was like, these probably aren't going to run right, but they ran pretty well. Like I was playing Wave Race. But even though it was emulating right, the controls weren't there. Like I couldn't turn left or right. But I was looking online, and a lot of people when they get these consoles, they take the micro SD cards out, put them on their computer, and then update it somehow, and then it runs flawlessly. So that's just something to keep in mind. But like I said, I like to review them from the point of somebody just buying it, turning it on, and playing it. All that being said, my final thoughts. I think this is by far my favorite handheld retro console I have reviewed thus far. This is probably number 4 that I've reviewed. I have another one up there that I think is going to surprise me, but we'll get into that probably later this week. But for the time being, this is it. $75, but if you use my promo code, an extra 10% off, comes standard 64 gigabytes of storage and 5,000 games. What's not to love there? But ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about all this information? Are you a fan of these retro handheld consoles? And if so, which ones do you have? I would seriously love to hear your thoughts and opinions down below. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you could. I would really appreciate a follow. And you guys know me. I'll see you soon with a new video. Peace out.